A kill switch for Memcrash may have been found, and Memcrash may be dangerous for other purposes than denial of service. Researchers in Hungary take a look at the shadow broker's dumps and speculate about the purpose of the Territorial Dispute module. The Dutch tax authority sustained another DDoS attack last night. India's CERT renders a troubling report to Parliament. The FBI still wants a non-backdoor backdoor. And some notes from SINET ITSEF. Now a moment to tell you about our sponsor, Observit. It's 2018. Traditional data loss prevention tools aren't cutting it anymore. They're too difficult to deploy, too time-consuming to maintain, and too heavy on the endpoint. They are high maintenance and require endless fine-tuning. It's time to take a more modern approach. With Observit, you can detect insider threats, investigate incidents quickly, and prevent data loss. With its lightweight agent and out-of-the-box insider threat library, Observit is quick to deploy and far more effective at stopping data from leaving your organization. That's because Observit focuses on user behavior. It's built to detect and respond to insider threats, and it's extremely difficult even for the most technical users to bypass. Bring your data loss prevention strategy into the modern era with Observit. Learn more at observit.com/cyberwire. That's observit.com/cyberwire. And we thank Observit for sponsoring our show. Major funding for the CyberWire podcast is provided by Cylance. I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Thursday, March 8, 2018. Researchers at security firm Carrero say they've found what amounts to a kill switch that can turn off memcache exploitation for denial of service purposes. They've notified various authorities and are working to make the remediation more generally available. So bravo Carrero for taking a shot at what's already proven a troublesome DDoS exploit. Carrero does mix this good news with some less good news. The vulnerability that can be used for DDoS could also let attackers steal or modify data on affected servers. University researchers in Hungary at the Laboratory of Cryptography and System Security, that's Crisis Lab, of the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, have announced the results of their study of the shadow brokers leak of what are said to be NSA hacking tools. Their most interesting conclusions are that the tools in the Territorial Dispute modules were particularly adapted to discerning the activities of competing state intelligence services. Wired looks at the shadow brokers' leaks and particularly laments the widespread dissemination of Eternal Blue, which has been used in far too many attacks worldwide. The Dutch tax authority sustained another distributed denial of service attack yesterday. The disruption lasted about 5 hours. No data was lost or compromised, according to the Netherlands Times. The attack was a service interruption. The previous DDoS attack was in January. The suspect in that case was taken into custody last month. He said he did it for the lulz, as a joke. No attribution or, of course, arrests yet in yesterday's attacks. CERT, India's computer emergency response team, has reported to Parliament that more than 20,000 of the country's websites, including 114 government sites, were attacked between last April and this past January. The Indian press is treating this as a serious matter, which it would seem to be. In legal news, Yahoo is said to have agreed to an $80 million settlement in a class action suit shareholders brought against the company in the wake of the breaches it began disclosing in 2016. FBI Director Wray, speaking at Boston College this week, painted a picture of a world effectively at war in cyberspace. He also resumed the Bureau's long-standing pleas for responsible encryption, a non-backdoor backdoor that would enable properly authorized law enforcement authorities to break otherwise inaccessible devices in the course of investigations. Few think such a thing is possible. Any backdoor would have to be a backdoor, and hence an exploitable weakness, most observers in the tech community believe. The Bureau, in their view, may as well be asking for something made of unobtainium. The attempted assassination of a former GRU officer and his daughter in the UK over the weekend appears to have used a nerve agent. The victims, including at least one first responder, remain in serious condition. How the poison was delivered is unknown. Protecting against insider threats is an important part of every organization's security posture. with phishing attempts on the rise and the simple fact that we're all human and sometimes we make mistakes. Richard Henderson is a global security strategist at Absolute, and he makes the point that when it comes to insider threats, it may be in your best interest to expand the scope of what you're looking for.
A lot of people are starting to really appreciate the understanding that what we have traditionally thought of as insider threats only is a small portion of the equation. The definition of an insider threat is so much more broad in scope than what we've generally come to appreciate as an insider threat. So, a perfect example, we're all familiar with the Edward Snowdens and people quitting a job and walking out the door with everything on a thumb drive. And yes, those are absolutely types of insider threats, but there's so much more beyond that malicious or the malicious insider who's intentionally trying to do harm. You think about the system admin who, has decided in a huff that he or she wants to leave the company and they nuke everything before they go.
Right.
Those are things you need to worry about, but at the same time, I was at the Forrester Privacy and Security Summit late last year, and I sat in on a talk that specifically mentioned insider threats. And there was an interesting statistic there that said, over half of security incidents in an enterprise today involve an insider in some shape or form. And what does that mean? It means, for example, if your marketing team decides that they're going to email off a spreadsheet full of potentially sensitive customer data to a third-party processor, and in some jurisdictions they didn't get the exclusive opt-in from those customers to share that data with that third party, technically that's an incident, and that is an incident that was caused by an insider. Someone clicks on an email and they didn't mean to, and they share some information they shouldn't have. That's a different type of incident that involves an insider. So there's a lot of attacks out there that are precipitated on by someone on the inside doing something either they didn't mean to or something they shouldn't have. Now, of course, you want to realize that people's intentions are good and they don't mean to, most of the time intentionally or negligently cause harm to the enterprise, but they do through their actions or in some cases lack of action.
Yeah, it seems to me like there's an emotional component to that as well, that it's natural for someone to think, oh my gosh, I made a mistake and now I'm going to get in trouble. I better not say anything. But if you can reward people for doing the right thing somehow, even if it's just saying, hey, we're really glad you called us in here to help fix this, that's really setting up that culture where that bigger picture security situation is top of mind for people.
Well, ask yourself this question. Would you rather have an employee come forward and say, look, I think this isn't right, and have it be something totally innocent or something totally innocuous? Or have them not say anything at all, and then something bad happens and you don't find it out because it got through your defenses, and it may take a long time before you realize something really bad has happened? I know what I'm going to pick, and I would hope most people would pick that they would rather have their employees, waste a little bit of help desk resources on the occasional false alarm than not saying anything and trying to clean up a giant mess later on down the road.
That's Richard Henderson from Absolute Software. SINET's annual ITSEF conference wraps up today in Silicon Valley. The first day's sessions covered, as expected, the state of the cybersecurity industry. Some takeaways from the conference so far include the rapid maturation of deception technologies, which are beginning to assume an important role in security architectures. Executives whose companies have used them showed a surprising unanimity. Deception has been good to them, both effective and affordable. People view the explosive growth of the Internet of Things, of course, with considerable concern, especially the industrial Internet of Things, where a general failure to secure levels 0 and 1 render national infrastructures disturbingly vulnerable to catastrophic disruption. A panel yesterday on the IoT urged schools of engineering in particular to begin teaching students how to design for a high-threat environment. As one panelist said, civil engineers design always against gravity. Now electrical, industrial, and systems engineers should start designing against an environment rife with attackers. Another interesting discussion considered regulation and liability. The current regulatory environment, especially GDPR and recent consent decrees obtained by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, has effectively made businesses responsible, fairly or unfairly, like it or not, for their customers' endpoints. Businesses would do well to come to grips with this new reality. And the cybersecurity market itself has changed. Vendors find that the CISOs they wish to sell to aren't so available. they've gone into hiding. SINET CEO Robert Rodriguez said, "You won't find those CISOs walking the floor of RSA in the old approachable way. They've secluded themselves in hotel suites, and Rodriguez thinks tone-deaf vendor marketing is responsible. No one, as he put it, wants to be approached by some guy on roller skates wearing a gorilla suit," a comment with which one must reluctantly agree. So before you strap on those skates and say, "Step right up, friend," take some time to listen and understand what the customer might actually want and need. Now a word about our sponsor, the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute, providing the technical foundations and knowledge needed to meet our nation's growing demand for highly skilled professionals in the fields of information security, assurance, and privacy. We value their expertise and insights as one of the CyberWire's academic partners, and of course, they're one of the world's great research universities. The Institute is also an NSA and DHS designated Center of Academic Excellence in Information Assurance and Cyber Defense and Research. Visit isi.jhu.edu to learn more, and there are scholarships available. That's isi.jhu.edu. And we thank the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute for sponsoring our show. And I'm pleased to be joined once again by David Dufour. He's the Senior Director of Engineering and Cybersecurity at Webroot. David, welcome back. We have seen some crazy stories about cryptocurrency. The numbers are all over the place, and that attracts the bad guys. So what's your guidance here? Should people be wary when jumping into this stuff?
You know, David, first of all, thank you for having me. And absolutely. And we're not going to talk today about whether, buying cryptocurrencies the right thing to do or not. We're not investment advisors, obviously. Right. But what really people need to be aware of is where are they buying these cryptocurrencies? Because, the first big Bitcoin market set up in Japan was set up on such a simple platform that it was easily hacked and the whole thing was blown up. The guy who started it's in jail now. But it's a function of are you comfortable and paying attention to where you're actually buying your cryptocurrency? And real quick, for example, December 6th, there was a crypto site that was hacked. November 25th, a crypto site that was hacked. August 22nd, crypto site that was hacked. July 19th, crypto site that was hacked. So these sites, and I'm not talking like the good ones. There's good sites where they're asking you and they're doing good security. There's a lot of startup sites that don't put security top of mind, and they're getting attacked heavily because there's so much money to be made.
So don't get drawn in by the promise of quick profits without doing your due diligence on the security behind the scenes.
That's exactly right. In all honesty, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the idea behind them, and not being attached to government entities and stuff really opens up markets. But make sure that if you're buying it from a reputable place. And I'm not going to steer people to New York, where New York has regulations about this. They regulate and monitor cryptocurrency exchanges that start up there. But you might spend a little bit of time understanding how the exchanges work, how they're regulated, what's going on behind the scenes before you just open up a wallet and buy something.
Talk to your financial professional, right?
Well, they might scratch their head too. I'm going to say they give you a call, David.
Yeah, we definitely don't want them to do that. That's for sure. What about the hardware wallets that I see people selling? Is this something to explore?
Again, it's something to look into, and I think they're not a bad idea. Just all of this is so new, and it's so the Wild West. Understand who you're buying it from, what kind of platform it's been built on. And the thing is, if you're not a highly technical person who's familiar and comfortable with researching technology, you're going to have to find some third source to trust that you trust to make a good recommendation, because so much of this stuff comes up and down every day. And I'm theorizing here, David, that you're going to see some hardware crypto wallets that aren't legitimate hardware crypto wallets that you're going to buy, and then somebody's going to steal your currency off those, because they're spoofing them. And everyone has to be very conscious of what they're doing. I know everybody's excited. They want to get in on, cryptocurrency and the speculative nature, and everybody's going to make $1 billion. But I just take the time to understand where you're buying, not just what you're buying.
All right. Good advice as always. David Dufour, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, David.
And that's the CyberWire. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the CyberWire possible, especially to our sustaining sponsor, Cylance. To find out how Cylance can help protect you through the use of artificial intelligence, visit Cylance.com. And thanks to our supporting sponsor, E8 Security. Follow the behavior, find the threat. Visit e8security.com to learn more. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technology. Our show is produced by Pratt Street Media with editor John Petrick, social media editor Jennifer Iben, technical editor Chris Russell, executive editor Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.